Hi everyone, it's Renee with Delaney Jane Cards. Welcome back to my channel. Today is my monthly collab with Amanda over at Rise and Procrastinate, and this month we decided to do watercolor. So here I am stamping out some roses onto some Canson XL watercolor paper. These roses are from Pink and Main's Roses stamp set. I used all three, and I actually just masked them with some Ink-a-Dink-a-Doo masking paper. It worked fairly decently. And then I'm using this stencil here. A friend of mine, Beth, made me this stencil. They're like masking stencils, so I decided to mask that area. And then I pulled another stencil from Pink and Main and placed that over top of that. So I'm going to kind of get a masked stenciled area. I don't really know. The background isn't what I envisioned. The whole card isn't what I envisioned. Clearly, I haven't been very creative lately. You haven't seen much from me. So I was really trying my hardest to be creative. So I just kind of went back to some techniques and decided to just go for it and keep going until my card got done. And in the end, I loved the card, but definitely didn't turn out anything like I had originally envisioned. But like I said, we decided on watercolor. So I am going to watercolor these roses now. I taped them down to my tonic mat. This is a stencil mat, I think. I don't really know. It's magnetic and it has magnets and I like it. But it's a hardboard too, so it works just fine. And here I was doing real watercolor technique, man. You fill in the area with water, you drop in your color, you don't put two areas together until they're dry or dry enough. So I just kind of picked and chose, and kind of every other petal or so. And that first little bud petal, I was doing a much better job of one petal at a time. And then I decided I wanted to kind of multitask or get going a little bit faster. So on this large center rose here, I'm going to go ahead and do a few petals at a time. And basically this brown color that I'm putting on here is going to be a base color. Originally, I wanted to make like cream roses that had been like dipped, or you know how when you put like food coloring in the water and you stand the roses in there and then they get like color on the edges. That was my original intention. That's not at all how this worked out. In the end, I think these flowers look like they might be like copper or metal, and I think that it's a really neat look in the end. I don't have a lot of watercolors. I probably could have like watered this brown down and got the like look I was going for. But I just used it directly out of the Gonzai Tombi pan. These watercolors, they are just in shambles. You can see in that yellow one that's on the screen, it's like chunks in there. I had dropped the entire palette and they shattered all over my floor. So I had to kind of like put them back together and then get them wet and let them sit. And it took it extra like 3 or 4 days for the whole process here to do the watercolor video because, well, I had to wait for my watercolors to not be broken. So after I painted the roses in brown, and they're gorgeous in this like rusty brown color, I decided I really wanted to have the edges, and my mind was on blue. I really wanted to play with blue, and I just thought that it would be really pretty, honestly. So I started out real light, and with watercolor, you know, you want to build up color anyway. But I started out kind of timid, and really was just putting a little bit of color. I wanted to see if I liked it or not. It's something that at this point I could have kind of just put a little bit on the flowers and it would have added a little touch. Remember, everything dries back. And then I got to thinking, man, everything dries back. So even though I think this is really, really pretty, it's going to barely be noticeable when this dries back. So I started to get a little more bold and add a little more shading. I used a darker brown in some of the like shadow areas to help shade. And then I did start putting in a lot more bright, bold color of this blue and really working it in. I was using the Royal and Langnickel Zen brushes. I had a 2 and an 8, and they're the round brushes. So I used a 2 for like all the fine details, and then I did go in and use an 8 to do some of the background. But I painted these roses with this tiny brush because I am not as skilled as I hope to be, or well, I guess I haven't practiced in a while. I haven't practiced much of anything. Painting was actually pretty easy on my hands in comparison to coloring currently. So maybe I should do more painting. I definitely feel like I could use a lot more practice, and it was really fun and very relaxing to paint. I was able to kind of shut the craft room door and just paint away. It was really relaxing. So for the background, you see I had done that stencil in the background. It does kind of look like a tile, but I didn't want these roses to just be like floating. I wanted them to have kind of a grounding place or a shadow or a more muted, place that they would lay down. So in the bottom corner here, I'm adding a shadow and I am adding quite a bit of water. And those were distress inks that I ink blended on, so they are water reactive. So that pattern is going to get like rather smushy and smeary there. It still exists, but it's very, very soft now. And then I let the whole panel dry. You see how everything dried back? So I have my panel and I decided I'm going to run a line of thank you, embossed thank yous up the side of the panel. So I'm using this precision stamp press, and I have my paper in there, and there is a little bit of an edge. So I'm going to go ahead and add the sticky ink, and I use the Versamark ink. It's sticky, it's great for embossing, and I'm going to stamp that down on my paper, and then I'm going to carefully move it 6 marks and then make sure it's all lined up against that ledge, and I'm going to go ahead and do this thank you stamping every 6 little lines all the way up. I did use the anti-static powder before I started, and here I am just finishing up at the top. Made sure that I ran this strip all the way up. Now this is a collaboration that I'm doing with Amanda over at Rise and Procrastinate, and if you've seen a lot of her projects, she does a lot of kind of multimedia and like she's very technique driven, and just she makes some very beautiful things. So I kind of wanted to grab a hold of that like multimedia feel with this card. I just thought that it would kind of fit her style really well. So that's where I went with the ideas that I did. That's how we got to where we were. Once the roses weren't exactly the light, soft colors that I wanted, I needed to figure out how to make this work. So I added the gold embossing, and then I wanted more gold on the other side, so I splattered water and then added a little bit of embossing powder, and I shook the paper so that that embossing powder would like settle in the water drops. And then it does take a little bit to actually heat emboss it, but you can heat emboss with water. It will dry the water, and then the embossing powder will be stuck, and then it will melt for you. So that added a little bit of splatter and that same gold across the entire image. And now I will die cut this. Thank you, die cut from My Favorite Things. I use Scotch removable adhesive tape when I run things through my die cut machine. It's great. Nothing ever sticks. I never have a problem with it. And then, so I didn't lose all the little inside pieces from this thank you, because we're going to do the Eclipse technique where you die cut out of what your background is and then stack the sentiment so you can see it kind of at a certain angle. You'll see. but I didn't want to lose all the little pieces. So I had put some 3M's Post-it tape or whatever on the back here so that all the little inside pieces from the thank you would stay in the paper. And off screen, I had die cut some of the same thank you dies out of this blue. This is Lawn Fawn. I don't know what color, but it was from the Lawn Fawn pack. It's a really pretty blue, and it goes very, very well with the flowers. So I'm stacking 2 layers of the blue and then the original layer, so there'll be 3 tall. So from the side, you get that dark blue edge because it is solid cardstock. So it kind of helps highlight your sentiment. The Eclipse technique is super neat because when you look at it straight on, you don't really see the sentiment. You don't really see whatever it is that you cut into the image or background or pattern or whatever you cut into. It's when you tilt it slightly to the side and you see whatever you use to heighten your image. You know, here I'm using 2 layers of this blue. I could have used 3 or 4. I just honestly wanted it to be noticeable, but still kind of not noticeable, still hidden. So I didn't go much taller than that, but the taller you go, the more of that like dark colored cardstock or whatever you're using behind will show. You can also offset it slightly and give yourself a little bit more of a shadow, and that's really neat too. So after I had those stacked, I adhered the background here. This is my card panel to the same color blue cardstock that I just used behind the thank you. I'm going to go ahead and just adhere that down, and I had trimmed it all up. It's just slightly smaller than an A2 panel, and then I just have that little blue border, and you'll see when I put it on my card base, I end up with just a teeny tiny white border around the outside edge too. So here I'm just replacing that thank you right back in, and you'll see it's very, very hard to actually read it from this angle. You can tell that something's there, but it's very unique. That thank you is not real bold out in your face, and that's really sweet. Think about how you display a card. You know, maybe it's up on a mantle, or you know, I don't even know how people display cards up on a shelf. You know, hanging. Anyway, from across the room, you wouldn't really see the thank you part of this. You would just see the floral, and I think that's kind of neat. I mean, it shows off that beautiful painted background or whatever pattern you used. So to highlight this sentiment here and make it stand out just a little bit more, because it is very hidden, I used glossy accents over the top. It's going to make them a little bit shiny and kind of amplify the color just a little bit in those areas. And also those are watercolors, so it does reactivate a little bit, and in some areas it is slightly like yellow. And then I did have off screen, I heat embossed another little sub sentiment and then pop that up with some thin foam tape, making sure to like not put foam tape over the lower part of the Y so there wasn't a bump. And then I finished the, I guess, design off with these marshmallow pearls from Cat Scrappiness. I just thought they were very sweet. I used some multi-medium matte adhesive to stick those down, make sure that they stayed really nice. So that added, again, to that little bit of a multimedia feel that Amanda uses in a lot of her cards. There's watercolor here and washes and inks and embossing powders, and it's very textured and you definitely want to touch it. And she also always finishes the insides of her cards. So I just took the blending brush I had used and the stencil and just rubbed a little bit of whatever ink was left on the stencil and on the brush onto the paper. I stamped another thank you sentiment from another Pink and Main stamp set. I did stick to Pink and Main for all of my stamps. This was from the Thankful set. That's where I also got the tiny sentiment on the front that says from the bottom of my heart. And the stencil was also from Pink and Main. I really just like their things. Here I'm just adhering the card front to this card base, and that is my card. I like I said, it wasn't what I originally thought it was going to be, but boy, do I really love how it turned out. And I was really happy to have completed it. Let's just put it that way. So thank you for stopping by. Make sure you check out Amanda's channel. And as I always say, give cards generously. Bye.